morning, Rose Red Homestead. Welcome to today's micro moment. I want to take just a second first and explain what these posters are. This is to remind you all that we are having a book sale on one book, February 21st through the 28th. And this is A Comfortable Food Security Plan for Uncomfortable Times. And this was written by my sister Cindy and myself. This is our top selling book, and we're putting it on for 20% off for the week of the 21st through the 28th. And then over here we have posters for our two online canning courses that are now in our bookstore. Water bath canning basics and pressure canning step by step. Everything is now in our bookstore. Every once in a while, experiences that I had early in my life come back into play late in my life. So I have in front of me a load of dirty dish towels. And you might not think this is too unusual because I could just toss them in the washing machine and wash them and get them done. Well, yes, if I had a working washing machine. Our washing machine of 18 years died this week. I mean, deader than a doornail. And of course, because of supply line issues, we can't get a new one delivered for at least several more days. It's already been a week, and we're still at least a week out and maybe more. So a couple of months ago, when I made a request for what videos you would like for us to do, a couple of people said, please show us how to do laundry off-grid. Well, I considered that, and I even did some research on it to figure out how people who lived off-grid were doing their laundry. And I looked at some materials, some equipment that I could buy that would help. And then I just kind of forgot about it. Well, I'm glad I did that original research because I was able to quickly resurrect those ideas and go online and purchase a couple of tools that are going to help us actually do laundry as if we were in an off-grid situation. We have grid to the rest of the house, just not a washing machine that works. And so, you know, sometimes the best of plans can go awry because we have a plan. We have a propane generator that we can connect to the house. We keep it in the garage, we connect to the house, and it runs 4 rooms in the house in grid down times. One of those rooms is the laundry room, so that I just thought, well, we have it covered for us, but no, we don't, because things happen. And so I want to show you how I am doing washing. I've already done a couple of loads. It's a throwback to when I was 10 years old. And by that time, we had 5 children in the family. Dad was a university professor. Yes, I followed in his footsteps eventually. And we had taken in some boarders, students from the university. We had 3 university students that lived upstairs, and they had room and board. So Mother was busy with the children and fixing meals for our boarders. And so Dad assigned laundry duty to myself. I was 10 years old, and my younger sister, who was 8.5. And the laundry was downstairs in the basement. Now, our basement was dark and dingy, a dirt floor. It smelled like kerosene. It had spiders. We hated to go into the basement. But off on one side was the washroom. And we had an electric washing machine. It was a Maytag, and there are probably others of you out there that remember those Maytags from years and years ago. Well, so our laundry room had 2 big tubs. One tub sat here, one tub sat right here, and then the washing machine was right here. And the washing machine was not at all like washing machines of today. All it did was agitate. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we'd fill it with water, we'd put the clothes in, we'd put the soap in, and it would wash the clothes back and forth. And then it didn't spin dry. Those clothes were sopping wet. And sometimes we had to keep the water in it to do the next load if the water was clean enough. Otherwise, we had to drain the water. But we had a rinse water set in this tub and rinse water set in this tub. And the Maytag had a wringer. It was 2 cylinders on top of each other that were tight together so that you would feed the clothes through and it would wring the water out. And it had an emergency release on the top that you would just smack in case feeding the clothes through you got your arm caught, which both of my sister and I did several times. We were never hurt because we could just hit that and release it and then pull our arms out. So wash, we would swing the wringer around this way, feed it through to the first rinse, then swing it around this way and feed the sopping wet clothes through the wringer this way, then swing it around this way, feed the sopping wet clothes through the wringer again into a basket, and we would hang the clothes outside. Even in the wintertime with snow on the ground, we would walk out and hang up the diapers. We had tons of diapers. In the winter, we would bring the clothes back in frozen solid. So what memories? I hadn't thought about that for years. So I'm going to show you the tools that I have that has made this a little bit easier. I did 2 loads yesterday, a load of underthings and then a load of my shirts and pants, and it turned out just great. So I have some hot water in this sink. I'm now going to add a little bit of detergent. This is just my favorite, which is Tide. Maybe a little bit more. I have a sink in the laundry room. We just can't fit our lighting and our sound systems in there, so I'm just going to show this in the kitchen sink. That water is very hot. Okay, tool number 1 is this little plunger. It acts quite a bit like a plunger, and I was actually very pleased with the results. So you just go like this and plunge the clothes. And maybe you can hear the suction. It is actually pushing the water through the fabric and then bringing it back through, and so the dirt is being released. And this keeps my hands out of the water, which is nice. Okay, now I have a sink full of sopping wet clothes, and I don't exactly want to wring them out this way. It won't be long before I won't have the muscles to be able to do that. And so I bought another tool, and here it is. Ta-da! This was actually suggested by one of our viewers, and I thought it was brilliant. So I'm going to wring out the soapy water. I'm going to, sopping wet, just put these right here, and then here's the wringer. So it is wringing that that extra water out of these right into the bucket. And there are a number of ways that you could do this. And then I'm just going to stack those right there. And I'm going to do this for the entire batch. And it is better to put more in because this is built for a mop and it has a stop on it that would be perfect for a mop. But unless your clothes keep it from stopping at that stop, they're not going to get wet enough. They're not going to get dry enough. This has wheels that go on it. Obviously, I'm not putting the wheels on when I have it on top of the cabinet. I may have to do a different setup if I actually have to do this long term. But for right now, this setup without the wheels works just great for me. So the water is now up above the dish towels. So I'm going to do the same thing and rinse everything. So you're getting the idea here. So what I will do now, because I want to rinse my clothes, I'm generating some soap suds, as you may see. I will run this through the wringer again and give it a second rinse, and then we'll come back after that is done. So this is the last couple of things that have now undergone 2 rinses. Now this wringer thing does a pretty good job. And if I were going to be hanging these out on the line, these are plenty dry enough, but I'm going to be putting them in my dryer because thankfully the dryer still works. And I want to get just a little bit more out so they can do with a little extra wring. But it really does a pretty good job. And now I can just dump this water right in the sink. And I have this load that will be going into the dryer. And this worked just fine for the 2 loads that I did yesterday. One of the things that I noticed was that doing washing by hand has some advantages because you pay more attention to individual items of clothing, and you can really get at stains if you have any on your clothes. And I don't mind it so much. I would have to enlist Jim's help doing some things. That bucket with the wringer would certainly not work for all things. It worked for some of my pants. I imagine we can get it to work for Jim's Levi's. But in terms of great, big, thick Turkish towels, I'm not so sure. And of course, bedding, we would have to wash in the tub. We could use that same plunger, but then we would have to wring those out by hand. So this is just a couple of ideas. There are many ways that you can do off-grid laundry. I hope this helps you at least start thinking about what you might use if by any chance you find yourself in a situation where you might have to, even if the grid is up, you may have no washing machine like has happened to us. Timing couldn't have been worse for us because we're right in the middle of our crew is coming through to finish up the work on our kitchen here in just a few days. I've had to move things out of cabinets and cupboards, so I'm in disarray. And we've been having a lot of snow lately, so I would have to go out and hang the clothes up in the snow, which I've done before and I can do again. Along with these 2 items, I also bought a 100-foot length of clothesline. We know exactly where we will run it in the backyard. And I also bought a set of metal clothespins instead of the wooden ones that I seem to break all the time. The clothespins have not arrived, but those tools, those 4 things, will be up in our Amazon store, so you can just at least take a look at them, see if they're of interest to you. So this concludes our adventure in laundering off-grid, and now I'm going to go put these in the dryer, which is still on grid. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at our next Micro Moment.